Hello, everybody. I know y'all want to be like, hey, stranger, where have you been? And honestly, y'all, look, I had a very busy week with traveling and I had a very busy week with just a lot of things. And if I'm being completely honest, I also just kind of needed to take a step back with YouTube and just content in general and kind of reevaluate how I want to approach content, approach YouTube, approach everything moving forward. I think last month was a pretty rough month on YouTube for me, just in terms of some of the ways that just in terms of things. And whenever I bring things up, y'all be screaming at me in my comments and I talk about it. So I'm just gonna let it go. But I needed a little bit of a break. I'm gonna keep it real. Um, but I'm here and I am back. My name is Lex, by the way. If you are new to the channel, my name is Lex. We do reality TV show commentary here. We chop it up. Now, first order of business, I do have a vlog channel slash personal channel. Over there will be vlogs, personal chats, unboxings, hauls, whatever. Everything that's not commentary related will be here. So I will put this up on the screen. There will also be a link in the description. I say that to say please give me some grace over the month of December. I am actually going on a cruise in a couple of weeks and I'm leaving out for Miami in like 11 what, like 12 days. So please give me some grace when I'm on the cruise, particularly. I am not going to be able to record. Well, I can record, but I will not be able to probably upload videos. I think it's going to be very difficult. So please, please, please just give me a little bit of grace with that. I will see what I can do. But if not, probably the maps video and potentially the last ultimatum videos will be delayed a little bit. So just work with me there. Work with me there. For that. And otherwise, the ultimatum videos are coming. I am planning to watch at least episodes 1 and 2 by tonight, probably. So you probably by tomorrow, there should be at least one ultimatum video up. But thank you guys so much for bearing with me. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. The channel has definitely blown up quite a bit in the past month, 2 months. If we're going to be honest, from July till here, the channel has just really exploded exponentially. Obviously, our next goal is 10K on the channel. So please, if you have not subscribed, if you're typing in Lifestyle with Lex, looking for my videos, please hit subscribe so that way we can ensure that we reach that goal of 10K and it will inspire me to keep creating. Now, we are going to get caught back up with maps. Today, we are going to talk about episodes 6 and 7. I'm going to just kind of go couple by couple about episode 6 and just give like the bullet points of what happened. So that way we can dive deeper and talk about episode 7 because a lot of these conversations that started off in episode 6 continued onwards into episode 7. Sorry, I'm just going to fix myself on my chair real quick. Continued onwards into episode 7. So let's dive into it. And as I said, if you have not subscribed, hit the bell, leave comments, do all of those things. It drums up engagement. So let's get going. So we start off episode 6 with David and Juan. They have a diary cam, and we basically see that they bonded over a sauna, an ice bath. Seems fairly harmless, but obviously keep this all in mind because this basically shapes the entire episode for Carla and Juan. So let's begin with Imam and Ikechi. They have a breakfast chat. And in this breakfast chat, Ikechi's like, well, what makes you happy?
You wanted children before I told you that. Do you want children? You don't
Looks
want
like it's
children.
over. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I definitely am open to having children. Like, I think I'd be a good mom,
So,
Imam says something to the tune of, my business thriving. Remember, she's a nurse practitioner. She just opened up business. She told us, her father told her, do not prioritize, relationships, prioritize your work. And Ikechi says the thing that has made him the most happy is his niece. So he's like, oh, yeah. I should have asked you, by the way, like, do you want kids? And Imam is like, I'm open to it. Now, girl, I'm open to it does not mean yes. I am open to it does not mean yes. I am one of the tune where when it comes to the question of having kids, if it's not and excuse the cussing, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. That is the way that I look at having kids. I know some people might disagree, and that is okay. And for the record, I'm not a parent, I'm not a mom, so you know. But I just felt like Emem's answer wasn't giving that kids was on the docket. And I couldn't really tell if it was because she has been single for so long and she's prioritized herself that she just never thought she'd be at that point, or if it's because she genuinely doesn't want kids. And I wish Ikechi would have dove a little deeper into that, because I do feel like these two have very surface level conversations. I still don't think Ikechi likes her, even watching episode 7. I really, really don't think that man likes her. But Ikechi lets us know that he has literally left women before because they were not interested in having kids. So again, I just wish that Emem and Ikechi had dove a little bit deeper into that kids conversation. But that is essentially like episode 6, their whole thing. So Camille and Thomas. Camille got on my nerves, y'all. Camille got on my nerves. Let's talk about them in episode 6. So
Like, I guess, like, maybe I'm not, like, traditionally the type of guy that she dates, or just our upbringings are a little bit different. Like,
we start off episode 6 with Camille and Thomas. They do a salsa class. Thomas gets this salsa class for them because he wants to prove that he can be a leader. Now Thomas, he can dance. He could not dance, y'all. Thomas, I think you got 2 left feet, sir. Later on in the episode, they get into some kind of altercation, argument, whatever. We just get a scene of Camille storming off, and we get a cam of Thomas telling us, like, Camille and he got into an argument because Camille says he's not like every other man that she's dated. And Camille goes on to this whole thing about how they have these big cultural differences, that because Thomas went to a school that only had 5% black people, he's suburban, he doesn't have that R&B swag, he doesn't understand cultural references. And so because of that, she's having a lot of trouble finding the attraction. Camille drove me nuts with this because, girl, you are upset because this man does not have what you perceive that a black man should act like. And I say this as a black woman who grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Boston is not known to be a predominantly black area. I grew up around a very mixed environment, had very mixed friends, and I had a lot of times in my life where there were people that assumed that I didn't like being black because I did not like some stereotypical black things like music or movies, or I don't know, whatever the case was. And I just feel like Camille right now is really leaning hard onto that and essentially telling him that he's not black enough because he's not acting the way that she deems that a black man should act. And I really, really didn't like this. Like, yes, I understand sometimes it is hard when there's differences in culture and you don't get references and things like that. I do understand that that can be kind of frustrating, but for Camille to basically be insinuating, because I think she says somewhere in episode 7 that she feels like she's in an interracial relationship, even though she isn't. I didn't love this. I'm sorry. I just didn't love this. I think that a lot of what she's saying is based off of her stereotypes and projections. They even have a further conversation in episode 6 about having kids. And she's like, we're going to be raising black kids. And I just feel worried because I feel like you don't really have like that black culture. And I'm like, girl, he's black. Like, he is black. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. I would be highly offended. If I was Thomas, I would be so offended. And as I said, maybe as a black person who has been told in my life, like, you hate being black. Not as an adult. Not as an adult. Because as an adult, people realize, at least where I live, that there are all different types of black people who act all different types of ways and have all different experiences. But as a kid, as a teenager, yes, there would be people that would flat out accuse me of not being black or not liking to be, not, let me not say not being black, but like hating blackness or hating being black because I didn't do certain things. So I didn't like that. That was basically the gist of their episode 6. And again, she had a lot of trouble feeling that attraction for him due to that. So Michelle and David, episode 6 for them, they decided, hey, we're going to actually get along. And by they, I mean Michelle.
Help, I don't want help. Like, so it's hard to even like allow those things. And I get that, and it's going to be a work in progress for both of us to try to bypass that or compromise at something, because I feel like
Michelle decided she's going to suck it up and pretend for these last couple of days, because what are we going to do? You decided you want to go on this honeymoon with this man knowing you don't like him. You decided you're still going to go on this honeymoon knowing you don't like this man. And that drove me nuts. So they go paddleboarding and they have a good time. They're laughing, they're joking, they're fine. They then go on to go to a sushi making class. Michelle has to start again. First, she gets upset because David says he's not a sushi guy. So, she's like, oh my God, I not like sushi. I like sushi. I am a sushi eater. I like sushi. But I have people in my life who do not like sushi, who do not like raw fish, who only eat them some California rolls. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Everybody has different food preferences. Then she gets on him because he doesn't know how to use chopsticks. Again, I am someone that knows how to use chopsticks, but I will say I did not know how to use chopsticks efficiently enough to actually use them at a restaurant and not have to ask for a fork until this year. Okay? But the point I'm trying to make with that is you can learn to use chopsticks in like a month or two. I literally just bought a pair of trainer chopsticks and then regular chopsticks and just used them at home every day for like 1 or 2 months. I just would pick up things with the chopsticks and boom, I knew how to use them. It's really not that hard. And at the end of the day, some people can't use chopsticks. I have friends that have been trying to use chopsticks for years and they just can't figure it out. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Michelle gets on David a lot about a lot of things, but they do end up still having a good conversation. And again, I think David is a good sport about a lot of this. They end up talking about their grandparents and whether they're alive or not. Michelle ends up talking about moving from her small town to live in Chicago, and they end up having a pretty decent conversation. So that's them, their last few days of their vacation. And then Juan and Carla. So Juan and Carla, they are dancing, they are eating.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot you were there because I was just having so much fun. I think like I'm living it up, and I really
You
bonded.
forgot about me.
But I was just in the moment, you know.
Juan sets up this little beautiful day for them, and they are talking, and Juan is like going on about how he had a great day with David. He is so happy that he and David had a good day. Carla says, look, I sat alone because I felt like I was absorbing everybody's energy and it was very negative. Juan then proceeds to be like, go on again. And he's like, I had such a great time. I kind of forgot you were here. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to come too hard on Juan because he forgot about her. Like, these people just got married 2 days ago. They don't know each other. That I'm not going to come too hard on him for. What I'm going to come hard on Juan for is the fact that you need to have a filter. There are some people where I feel like they believe that it's like this thing with them where they feel like they're being real or they're not being authentic if they don't say every single solitary thought that comes to their head. In the case of this, Juan he did not have to say that to Carla. Like, even if it's true, which I'll be honest, I believe it was true, you don't have to say that. You don't have to tell her that. And then throughout their episode, they proceed, like Carla's making little comments and jabs. I think they went to the pool and Juan forgot his bag for his clothes, his wet clothes. So he had to put his clothes in a plastic bag. And she's like, you forgot your wife and now you forgot your bag too, huh? So she's making little comments. And at the end of the trip, before they head back to Chicago, Juan's like, I can't deal with the passive aggression. And I'm like, but Juan, you are passive aggressive as well. Like, Juan, I'm gonna be very honest, he's very condescending. Like, I feel like his attitude, his facial expressions are very condescending. Like, in watching him, I'm like, I just know this man is a jerk. And I'm not gonna say that Carla is not either. If I'm being honest, I feel like these two both have a lot of personality traits where I'm like, baby. But I feel like for Juan's response to be, let's hone in on Carla and how she responded rather than the fact that he said something that was very offensive. Like, that was very offensive. And he proceeds to even ask her, like, why didn't you ask me why I said that? Why didn't you ask me why I did that? What? Stop putting the blame on her when it is your fault, sir. So I really didn't like that with Juan. It's kind of like a halfway red flag. They both have a half of a red flag right now for me because Carla, I can definitely tell when she doesn't get her way, she's gonna be very mean and passive aggressive, and she's gonna storm around, and she gonna probably put some kind of spell on you because you know she be doing that energy work. And then Juan, he's gonna be extremely condescending and just harsh. I feel like so that is the vibe that I get off of the two of them. We also have Madison and Alan. So Madison and Alan, they basically go to like a jungle cleansing thing. Not much happens here for
Forget about everything.
them. But the person who's doing the cleansing tells them, like, says to Madison, "Oh, you need to open up. You know, you need to let him in. He's a great guy." I mean, that was really basically the entire thing here. Um, and that was it. That was basically it for them. So that is kind of where every single couple was at the end of the trip. They do end up heading back to Chicago. And you know, the first thing I noticed is that Camille and Thomas, they step on the bathtub with dirty shoes. And again, for Camille to be doing all this talking about how Thomas is suburban, he not black, baby, you aren't black either because ain't no black folks stepping on a bathtub with their shoes on. Camille, you claim you're all in black culture, but you ain't know that you're not supposed to step on that bathtub with your shoes on? All right. Now, Madison decides to sit Alan down and say, "Look, I prefer somebody who actively takes care of themselves. You know, I prefer a guy who goes to the gym every day. I want a guy who works out. Like, I don't know, for me, that's what I want." And remember, Madison never shuts up about she likes a metro pretty boy, and that's not Alan. Um, Now she says, you know, she will, you know, try to go around looking good for her partner. You know, she wouldn't walk around looking a mess. And I just was like, why is she so mean? Like, he doesn't even dress badly. Like, I don't know. I feel like he dresses very normal. So I'm very curious at what Madison is used to. I don't know what Madison is used to. Um, by the way, I forgot to talk about one part. David and Michelle, they talk a little bit before they get on the plane to go back to Chicago. And David is like, you know, I work late, so I'll try to be really quiet when I get in the bed at night because I don't want to wake you up. And Michelle's like, "Oh, no, we're not going to be sleeping in the same bed. Like, I'm not there yet. Like, no, thank you." And it's just like one of those things where, you know, once again, I feel like we had a good day with Michelle, but then when she makes that little comment about how she's not ready to sleep even in the same room with him, it's like, oh yeah, there's the Michelle we know. There's the Michelle we know. Also, what else happened in that episode before we go to 7? Oh, last little thing. So we end up episode 7 with Alan giving us a diary cam, and he is like, "Yeah, Madison went out with her friends last night. You know, she was supposed to go to dinner."
Beautiful wife with me, but she's out for happy hour, I think. I'm a little disappointed, but see her soon though, hopefully.
Whatever, and she has never come home. She just did not come home tonight. And that is essentially where we leave off episode 6. And now we will go into the deep dive for episode 7. All right, so episode 7, let's jump in. So this episode, we have the house visits with each couple. They go to each other's apartments, and one person has a storage unit, but we'll get to that. And also the experts came to visit everybody. So we get the diary cams as usual. Thomas and Camille, they feel comfortable with each other, so they claim, but then Camille says something totally different. So Emem and Akechi, we also get them in the morning, and they both have no preference for which side of the bed they sleep on. I was like, that is so weird because I am extremely picky. My husband is not, which is great, but I am very picky about which side of the bed I sleep on. So I thought it was funny that neither one of them had the preference. Now, Keiichi from the beginning is like, look, I don't want you to think I'm down bad when you see my place. Like, I don't want you to assume that. And Emem is like, what do you mean? Like, and at first I ain't gonna hold you. I was very confused. I now realize that he means financially. I think he was trying to imply, like, look, I'm not where you're at financially. I don't live in a 2-floor penthouse like you. But at first I was just like, what is he talking about? So, Madison and Alan. Now, Madison, from the dinner plan situation, because we left off the last episode with her not coming back. Alan lets us know that Madison had texted Alan at 1 a.m. and basically said that she was gonna go back home to her apartment. I've always said with these shows, they need to require them to live in the shared apartment. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a legal thing where they cannot force them to stay anywhere. But the fact that on these shows, these people just say, hey, yeah, I'm not going to even go to that. I'm just going to come to the shared apartment when we film and I'm still going to go to my apartment. It's crazy. So anyways, Madison does show up this next morning and she basically claims that her friend was having a really, really rough night. So that is the reason that she decided to go back to her place and spend some time with her. Now, Alan, one thing about Alan, you need to speak up, baby. Speak up, okay? This whole episode, I just saw so much of Alan just being like, okay, yeah. And I get it, he said he had been in a relationship where the woman would literally get so mad at him if he was 10 minutes late from the gas station or something. So I get it. But I just feel like Alan says a whole lot of nothing. He even claims that he holds no resentment against her for missing the first night. However, on his face, you can clearly tell that he is upset. Now, Madison is like, well, I do like to have nights that I spend with my friends. And it's like, yeah, girl, let me not say we all, because that's not even true. A lot of us do. And I don't think there's anything wrong in a marriage with having a night that you spend with your friend if you set it up that you're gonna crash at a friend's house, or if you set it up that you're gonna be out late. And then still, every couple has different dynamics. And also, there's an added layer when it's like, yes, this is the first night that you guys are back in the shared apartment trying to figure out if something's gonna work, and you kind of are just like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and drink and not be here. Really crazy. I'll be honest, I'm having a lot of trouble telling if Madison is trying and is willing to give this guy an effort, or if she's like Michelle, but just not as mean. Like, I'm having some trouble there. I feel like she goes back and forth herself. Now, they do talk a little bit about the home visit, and Alan's like, well, you get to see the hoopty. And she's like, hoopty? What is hoopty? Now, if you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Because she literally had no idea what a hoopty was. She's like, oh my God, these Alanisms. I'm like, girl, you ain't never heard the term hoopty. Okay. Carla and Juan. So they go to Carla's storage unit. Carla explains to us that her lease just ended and she knew she was going to get married, so she never got another place. I say the same thing about everybody. Girl, what are you doing? You should not be relying on this shared apartment to be your only home. Like, I don't know. To me, it's just crazy. I don't understand it. But she has a bunch of stuff in her storage unit. She has sound bowls. She has all kinds of different energy-related stuff. And they're packing some things up in the back of the car. Now Carla mentions in the confessional, look, like Juan, he loves to have fun. He loves to joke around all the time. But what is it going to kind of be like when he simmers down? When is it going to be like serious Juan? So she's already noticing that they're having a lot of fun. And I've said again, they seem to have great banter. But the two of them as real people, I feel like have almost nothing alike, and I don't really see a lot of similarities there. But they have good banter. I just don't think that's going to make a successful marriage. So Michelle and David, Pastor Cal, and Dr. Pia immediately are there, okay? We don't waste a minute.
From when I said the cigarette thing, she said gross. So at that point, I hadn't had a cigarette. After that, I stopped, because I was willing to adapt and compromise.
Be married to someone who lives at home. I know that's mean, but I feel bad keep harping on it. We've harped on it a lot, by the way.
But his parents are not taking care of him. You understand that?
So Michelle starts off by saying, like, first words, we're not feeling that great. Yeah, Michelle, we all know. Now, David lets us know that he is physically attracted. So he is very, very happy there with what the experts gave him. She says, I was pretty vague with what I wanted, and ultimately, I got a bunch of stuff that I didn't really want in a partner, like someone who smokes cigarettes, someone who lives at home. And Dr. Pia, sorry. David is like, well, I mean, I did stop smoking, like I haven't had a cigarette since. I know it bothered her. And she goes on and she's like, well, I don't want you to like change your whole self for me. And it's like, Michelle. And I get it. The reason why I'm hesitant to even like really give a lot of commentary on Michelle is because we just know she has the ick for this man and there's no like saving it. Like, I could sit here and say, oh my God, Michelle, but if he wasn't doing the things you wanted, you would complain about it. But it's like, yeah, duh. She's going to make a problem out of any and everything that David does because she just simply doesn't like him. So Dr. Pia is like, okay, can I pause you here? And I like Dr. Pia here. This is actually the first season I've watched with Dr. Pia, so I liked her. I don't know if y'all don't like her, but I liked her. She was like, hold up, because I thought I remembered you saying that you were okay with a guy who may possibly live at home if he has plans to move out. And then they roll that tape. Okay, if there's one thing I like about mafs is that they roll the tape, honey. Okay, so they roll that tape and Michelle doesn't have an answer. She does not have an answer. She's like, well, being 38 is just not attractive to me. Now, they ask her, like, why are you so upset about this? Like, what is it that bothers you so bad? And David tries to explain again that, look, this is a basement apartment. I have the means to move out. And David, I have to have a word with David, okay? I need to have a word with David. David, can you please stand up? Because David capped. I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you. David capped. But we didn't get to that point yet. Because I need to have a word with David about this basement apartment, which you already know. I already said that was cap. I already knew he didn't have no finished basement apartment. But, So they keep on pushing her about why she is so upset about this, why it matters. And again, I don't think it's inherently wrong that she's upset because he lives at home. Like, again, I've already stated, I probably would not have been with a guy who was living at home unless it was very limited circumstances. But for me, especially as somebody who has been living on my own in some capacity since I was 18, yes, it would be very hard for me to not live with, to live with somebody who has had no experience living on their own. I just think for me, I would not be able to handle that. But again, I would just leave pretty much immediately. I would realize we are not compatible and not keep it going, not stay with the person so I could drag them every single day. So, the experts do ask her, like, are you mentally checked out already? Like, are you giving up? Like, what is this? And she really just doesn't give an answer. She again tries to say that she's here and she wants to try and blah, blah, blah. Now, David says it is really difficult to understand what Michelle is receptive to. Newsflash, David, it's not you. It's because she doesn't like you. It's because she has the ick from you. It does not matter what you do. She could give you a whole list of things to do to make her happy, and she'd still be upset about something that's not on the list. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. But he gives an example where he's like, the other day I tried to like pick up a bag for her, or I tried to open the door, and she's like, I can do that myself. And she's like, okay, well, in that moment, it was smothering for me. Like, it's not that I don't want it, but it just felt smothering. And again, it feels smothering because you don't like him. When you like somebody, everything they do is amazing and you want more of it. When you don't like somebody, every little move they make feels like too much. Dr. Pia is like, so when was the last time you were like cared for, Michelle? Like, when was the last time you felt like in a relationship you were cared for? And she says, 7 years ago, that it's the shock and the fear. So Dr. Pia tries to go into this whole thing about how, like, maybe it's the shock and it's the fear of like leaning in and, what if it's not real? And like, clearly you're afraid that something may happen that, is scary for you. And in an ordinary circumstance, I do feel like Dr. Pia's advice is good. However, I think there are just fundamental things about David that Michelle has automatically written off. So I don't think this is a situation of, oh, Michelle just needs to realize that she actually does like David and she just wants to give him a chance. I just think fundamentally they are not compatible. They're not compatible. And so, like, I like what Dr. P is saying. I get it. The experts are always going to pretty much push people to stay together. But I just think in Michelle's case, it's not that she has a fear. It's that she doesn't like the guy. Now she goes in again and says, look, like, we have very different views on what success looks like. And she talks about that a lot. We've heard her talk about that multiple times, that their goals, their views of success, where they want to be, it doesn't align. So he says, that it seems like, sorry. Sorry, y'all. I just had a brain fart for some reason. David says to this, yeah, like it really does seem like, Michelle's view of success is financial, whereas his is having a roof over his head, being cared for, being loved. And again, like, I think the experts, they feel for David, because I think they do see he's a nice guy who's not given a chance. And again, I think David could be a great guy for somebody else. I think David is a great example of somebody who just needs to date regularly. Don't come on these shows trying to get married instantly, but just find a girl who will get to know you for who you are, who will get to see you despite whatever is going on. Now, Dr. Pia does try to encourage Michelle to look at success beyond the surface level of money, travel, expensive things, etc. She does encourage her to be vulnerable and to, relinquish control. And again, I think it's good advice. I don't think it's really that applicable for Michelle because, again, I think Michelle has written off that this is a thing in the first place. But yeah, I don't know what Michelle's point is in continuing to be here. Like, I just feel like there's nothing she likes about this man, so just leave him. So anyway, Ikechi and Imem, they go to Ikechi's apartment.
Yeah,
Much needed.
it's important. He's just getting real comfortable in my bed.
Well, why not if not?
I love my view.
You got a good view.
Ikechi's apartment is very him. He has record players everywhere. Some black art, I believe there was on the wall. It was very Ikechi. I think it was a 1-bedroom. But again, very, very stiff when it comes to Emem. Emem's sitting on the couch flirting, joking around. She likes what she sees, and Ikechi is so stiff and so rigid. And again, it's the body language, it's the demeanor. That man don't like her. Okay, Thomas and Camille, they go to Thomas's apartment. It is very basic. Very, very basic. Like, so basic, I don't even think he had a decoration on the wall. Now, Camille does ask, like, where are the personal touches? Like, where is the parts that make him him? They go to that closet, though, that he has full of Nikes, and all of a sudden, Camille is like, oh, he goes up from a 5 to a 4 on the swag meter because he had them Air Forces in there. He had them Jordans in there. Girl, if Camille don't get her stereotypical, chill, okay. So Carla and Juan, they go to Juan's apartment. Juan's apartment was low-key a mess.
To a bachelor apartment.
I mean, you're like borderline bachelor.
You think so?
You try to I see where you try to throw some like softness in there, but I mean, could definitely use.
What the F was that? He has like a hammock. He has his TV on like one of those rolling carts. He has a couch. Then he has a bunch of trash. His desk is on top of his kitchen island. I don't know why I thought Juan was going to be neat. I thought he was going to be orderly. That apartment looked like a bunch of random stuff that he cobbled together. And remember, he told us he don't really have a lot of extra money. It was giving, I don't really have a lot of extra money. And that's fine. But I don't know. It didn't really fit what I thought Juan's apartment was going to look like. So his cousin is going to be staying there while he's on the show. I wanted to know more about that because I was very confused. He doesn't have a pet or anything. So I was just like, why? So his cousin's just going to be taking over the lease or what? Now, Carla does ask, like, well, first she makes a bunch of comments about how, like, it needs a woman's touch, it needs a little bit of her stuff. And I agree. It needs something because it was just a bunch of mismatched items inside of an apartment. I don't know. I could not imagine paying all this money for the way these apartments are and just having a bunch of mismatched random stuff on the floor. So she does ask if after decision day, because her lease was up, she doesn't technically have an apartment right now, if he'd be cool with her bringing over some of her stuff. She explains that in a previous relationship she had moved in with a partner who did not let her bring any of her stuff because she felt like her apartment was perfectly neat and or he felt like his apartment or his house, whatever, was perfect. Which I have more questions about that, because that means Carla has already lived with a partner in the past. So I'm just wondering, Carla, what's that history? Now, Wanda's like, well, I'm sure you won't need some stuff, though, so maybe you'll have to throw it out. Like, we'll see, but I'm sure you won't need some stuff, so you'll probably have to throw it out anyway. Again, here goes Juan. Very insensitive, brash, does not think about what he says, how it sounds when he says it. And I feel bad for Carla because I feel like he is very harsh under the guise of like, I'm just honest, I'm just real. So Madison and Alan, they get in the hoopty and they drive off to Alan's house. Now, he shows her this fur jacket that he had mentioned, and she's like, oh, like, it's not as long as I thought it would be. Like, this is fine. Now he says this is his version of thugging it out. And he wants to get a gold chain. Again, they starting to kind of make me question. Anywho, she does go on throughout the house, throughout the apartment. He has a finished kitchen that's brand new, big open kitchen, looks very nice. And Madison says, look, like, I am pleasantly surprised. Like, this apartment is this house is way more normal than I thought it would be. And again, I have no idea why Madison was so up in arms. Like, girl, you guys were in the middle of the water. That's why he was wearing the sunglasses and the shirt and the shorts. Like, I don't know. She like built up an entire fan fiction in her head off of a one time. And now she's like, oh yeah, he's just a normal guy because literally, he's just the normal guy. Like, I don't know, your man can't have a sense of humor. Your man can't be joking around a little bit. Like, that's weird, girl. But Madison does say the more she learns about Alan, the more she appreciates him. And she's actually starting to embrace him. So hopefully she means that. I have a hard time reading Madison and if she's true or false about it all, if it's real or if it's fake. So Emem and Akechi, they go to Emem's 2-floor condo or townhouse. Baby, the windows was panoramic views, 2-floor. And, her dog is there. Now, she shows the dog, and in the confessional, Akechi's like, I'm not the biggest pet fan, but I'll be okay. Now he keeps saying, they go around the apartment over and over again to various different rooms, and he's like, oh, this is the size of my bedroom, and it's like her living room or something. This is the size of my this is the size of my that. Always alluding to the fact that he lives in this tiny apartment and she lives in this big penthouse type thing. And Emem in the confessional, she does say, like, I've had partners in the past who didn't want to be with me anymore because they saw my place, they saw my stuff, and they got intimidated. And sure enough, I don't think Ikechi was feeling that great. And again, sometimes I feel like with men, I'm gonna just say this. I feel like sometimes when a man feels like his partner is above him, that gives him a reason to stray away. So we'll see, because we know one couple cheats. I'm just curious who it is. But yeah, he keeps mentioning his meager living and all of that, and it's clear that Emem is turned off. Like, I just, yeah, I'd be turned off too if I was like showing a guy my place and he kept being like, oh yeah. And I bet the funny thing is, I went on dates with guys like that who would always be talking about their meager living, they ain't got no money, they're broke, and it was a turn off. So Michelle and David, Michelle actually went home after the expert's visit, we find out, to self-reflect. But, David is thrilled. They are making the biggest scene of the fact that Michelle decided to text David and let him know that she wasn't coming back. So they are over the moon. They feel like their communication is amazing. Hey, the bar is in hell. Now, David does say, look, I would like it if we could do more things together sometimes. And Michelle takes out this entire list of things that she wrote down. And I was just like, wait, I thought you ain't like this, man. And now you went home and you wrote down a whole, what is going on? But I guess they're making strides. I'm not sure. So Camille and Thomas, they meet with Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. So, they talk about how they share a lot of similarities and core values. And again, this couple, especially Camille, I feel like stays saying that they share similarities, but then in the very next breath will say, oh yeah, but culturally he's not black enough, so I don't think that we actually are similar. It's like, are you guys similar or not? But she does mention again how she feels like that they grew up differently. She grew up in a more diverse environment, whereas he only grew up with a sprinkle of black people. So she says once again that for her, that disconnect is that the smoothness is missing, the swag is missing. And Pastor Cal's like, well, do you think he could have swag? Like, And she's like, well, I think the potential is there. And again, as I've said, Camille is leaning very heavy onto stereotypes. There are all different types of black men, and I don't feel that black men are this monolith where you need to act a specific way or you're not black enough. And I feel like it's very unfair, again, that she keeps on saying to this man's face that he's not black enough. He's not that. Like, come on. Come on. She also says that the jokes that he makes are lame and she doesn't like it, and they're asking like, okay, so what are the jokes? And she's like, oh yeah, like yesterday he made a joke about flossing his teeth and blood splatting everywhere, and that was disgusting to me. They roll the clip back and he made it in like an offhanded, like they were literally in the bathroom just brushing their teeth, and it was just an offhanded comment. Like the way she described it, she made it sound like this man went on for 30 minutes. He made one little comment. Even Thomas was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm sorry. I thought we were on the same page. I thought we were laughing, but okay. And again, it's like, girl, like I don't know. Like, I feel like she has watched one too many black sitcoms and is looking for like the nice black husband on those sitcoms or something. Cause I don't know, girl. Like, what is going on? Now, Thomas does say sometimes he may try to overcompensate in situations to try to make things more comfortable and feel comfortable, but he wants to definitely figure out that balance where he can still be himself and also feel like, he can connect with Camille. So they do ask her again to discuss what she means by swag, what she means by the fact that he doesn't have swag. And she's like, well, I just can't put it into words. And it's like, girl, no, you can. You just feel like he's like nerdier than you would like. You have this picture of like a big burly guy who walks around and is the center of the room. And that's not Thomas. It's very clear exactly what you mean. Okay, so Madison and Alan. Madison claims that she was really excited to get back to the shared apartment and see how their lifestyles match. And they both agree that it's going well so far. However, this is their meeting with the experts. Sorry, I didn't write that part. But Madison says she still isn't really feeling the romantic and physical chemistry yet. So they want to work on that. Alan says nothing in this conversation. And I thought that Alan was going to at least bring up the fact that Madison didn't come home the previous night, but they don't touch on it. He doesn't say anything. They don't talk about it. And again, with Alan, I just feel like Alan stays quiet to keep the peace. I understand that. I understand when you've been in tumultuous relationships, you get used to that. But I feel like this would have been a very good time for Alan to be like, yeah, I didn't really appreciate that. Like, she just didn't come home on the first night that we were together. But that is their meeting. So Michelle and David, they go over to Michelle's apartment. Michelle has cats and a dog in that little apartment. Michelle has a lot of nerve to be talking about other people's places when her apartment is very little. Like, it is literally just a room, like a little living room. I think it's a studio, if I'm not mistaken. Very tiny. So, Michelle's like, how do you like it? They're just sitting on the couch talking. And David's like, oh, I like that it's like simple, cute. And she's like, she literally gets upset. Okay. She's like, I worked really hard for the lifestyle I have. So him calling my apartment simple is really offensive. Michelle is a piece of work, y'all. Michelle is an absolute, utter piece of work. This woman is a piece of work. Ooh. So Emem and Akechi, they have their meeting with Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. They asked them, have you guys had the tough conversations yet? And they say no, which is true. I've already mentioned this. We don't really see them talk about almost anything. Now, they do ask about their physical chemistry and intimacy. And, they say, like, yeah, we've been sleeping in the same room, same bed since day one, but we haven't really gone further from that. And then their whole conversation just kind of centers around physical intimacy, which I thought was weird, considering I feel like there's a big gap and almost like a rigidity between them that should have been addressed more. But okay, I guess physical intimacy is the way to go for those two. So Camille does meet up with her sister, and she talks more again with her sister about this cultural difference between her and Thomas.
He definitely talked about his high school growing up was maybe like 5% Black students. So I think that, that kind of shaped in terms of just where.
So she says to her sister that she feels like she's in an interracial relationship, even though they look alike. Again, so rude, so offensive. I just think that's very rude. She says, like, there's a lot of difference in, like, the social scenes we hang out in, the people we're around. And again, this is where I finally was like, Camille, just tell the truth. Because that stuff I understood. I totally understand feeling like, with a partner, like all of their friends, all of their people are not really your vibe. And I do think, yes, when you're in a relationship, you want to be able to mesh groups. You want to be able to mesh people. Again, is Camille exaggerating this? Maybe. Maybe she's exaggerating this. But I finally, to some level, understood a modicum of what Camille was talking about. Where I'm like, there it is. There it is. Do I think it's wrong? I still think it's messed up, and I think it's wrong to imply that he's not Black. But I think that is something you could say, like, hey, I feel like we hang out in different social scenes. We hang out with different people. We hang out around different groups, and that makes me uncomfortable. As a Black woman, I think that is a totally fair and okay thing to say. All of the rest of that nonsense she's spewing about raising Black kids and she doesn't know if he has enough Black culture knowledge to do. Come on, girl, stop it. But that I understood. So she said she also feels like it's more of a confidence thing with Thomas as well, where she just doesn't feel that confidence in him, that leader. And so for her, again, the initial chemistry and relatability is tough. And it's like, so then why are you telling the experts and everybody else and the cameras all the time that you guys relate? You guys are the same when you are. All right. So David and Michelle, they are on the way to David's house, and Michelle is still hung up on the fact that David called her place simple. Again, piece of work. So they enter through the side door, and Michelle's like, oh, is this your entrance? And he's like, yeah, I always come through here. He's like, I don't even think I've been through the front door with, like, the doorbells and stuff. David, stop capping.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's because that door's locked, and then they'll lock my door. And then never doing laundry at the same time, that's for sure. So then This is
Kegerator?
huh?
Is this operating?
Yes, it does work. I do have some empty kegs.
This is where I go hold you. David was capping hardcore, 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 because they go through that basement and baby, that was not a finished basement apartment. He had a little table with a keg stand on the side here. He had a bedroom, a bathroom, and that was it. Now, the way he described it, he said he had 2 bedrooms downstairs, a kitchen, a table. Michelle even was like, "Oh, where's a living room?" He's like, "Where do you put people when you hang out with them?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I don't really bring people back." Also, the washer and dryer for the entire house is in this basement. So she is like, "Okay, so does your family just like kind of come down and do laundry whenever you're here?" And he's like, no. They always just do it when I'm at work. And it's like, David, be so for real. You know damn well that you hang out upstairs with your family. You know you come down there to sleep, but you go get some of your mom's dinner. You don't even have he didn't even have a kitchen down there. How in the world would he cook? He doesn't have a kitchen down there. He has a table. He doesn't have a kitchen. You know very well that you go upstairs, you get some of your mom's cooking, you kick it with your dad on the couch, maybe y'all watch football together. They come downstairs and do laundry whenever they please. I understand. I get it. I get mom and dad going along with the story to make their son look good, not embarrass him on TV, whatever. But let's be honest, because in this moment, I got a modicum of what Michelle was talking about. Do I like her attitude? Do I like her personality? No, she's a piece of work. But I did get where she was coming from, because if a man told me he had a finished basement apartment and I walked into that, I would have been very upset. I would have been very, very upset, because that is pure deception. He does say, to Michelle when she asks about like, well, when you bring people back, where do you guys sit? And he's like, well, there's a bedroom right there. And she's like, oh, I thought you said you haven't dated in 3 years. And he's like, well, I mean, she's like, so you've brought girls here? And he's like, well, I mean, I've seen people. I haven't dated seriously, but I've like seen people. Michelle's very hung up on that though. Now he asks her, once they finish looking through, does this change things? Like, do you see now that I have a studio apartment? David is over the moon. He's like, you see now, right? I have a studio apartment. It's great. Like, and she's like, no. And I was with her there. No, it does not change things, David. She's like, this looks exactly like I thought it did. It's giving very college, very frat boy. It is giving that you live in your mom's basement. And in that moment, like I said, David was like, you see, I told you. I come up. David, why are you making me defend Michelle now? Because, child, that was not it, sir. He's like, do you consider this a studio apartment? And she's like, no. So Michelle and Alan brings over his dog to the apartment finally, and that dog is rowdy, okay? It is tearing up chairs, putting fur everywhere, humping the chair. It's a puppy, and his name is Luffy. And I thought it was Luffy, like One Piece Luffy, but they spell it different, so I don't know. So they talk a bit about religion over dinner, which, by the way, Alan cooks, and apparently on after party, they were all like, Alan's a phenomenal cook. He's cooked for the group. From the food he made there, I can't tell. But one thing I will say is he used a lot of seasonings. So we'll leave it there. But they talk about religion, and both of them say like they don't really have a specific religion that they follow. Alan does say that he grew up religious and that it was very important to his mom. I think he said he went to Catholic school, but he doesn't really identify with anything in particular. He does say for him that he would not want to necessarily make his kids be any religion, but maybe on holidays they could go to church or whatever. And they both seem to kind of be on the same page about that. And lastly, we end off with Carla and Juan having their meeting with Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. So Carla says they are working their way through Juan's mindfulness. He doesn't really consider a lot of how Carla is feeling. Very true. We have seen. They do talk a bit about the insensitive comment that he made in Cancun. And, they go on a little bit about that and how those kinds of things are not fair. Now, they do talk a little bit about how Carla will start to withhold her emotions or not express herself if she doesn't feel fully comfortable, fully good. And then they lastly touch on basically intimacy, because he was like, we get, Pastor Cal is like, we get reports on everything going on. And we know that you guys were really, intimate. You guys really liked each other. And we heard you pulled back. So what happened? And Juan says for him, that he pulled back because intimacy too early has clouded his judgment before. So he really realized that he needed to, he wants to have a clear head. But anyways, y'all, my camera's overheating. That is basically how the episode ended. So once again, the pieces of work are pieces of work, and everybody else is everybody else. Anyways, if you made it to this point of the video, that means you like the video. So I greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps to get the videos out there, and it inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!